So Windows. So this is the edge cluster windows. Just to show them to the different, I use the browser SSH session directly on GCE. So you can see the difference between my Windows and the SSH Windows. So these CLDs needs to be loaded on the management cluster, and also on the edge cluster, you need this CLD. There's only one. All of these is done using make manifest and make install. So on your edge cluster, so both of them you need code to run first. So in this case, so one of them is Pre5GC runs on the edge cluster. So if you make manifests and then make install, they would load the CLDs directly. So in this case, I'm not going to do it again, but then you can just do it on there. So you don't need kill builder or anything on your host to do on your cluster to do that, on your host that connects to your cluster to do so, because all you need is make and go on your and other things, among other things. So the very big things that I need, which I'm pretty sure John would have something to say about that.
So one question, Stephen. I mean,
yeah.
You have some kind of an operator running on the edge cluster. I thought the only requirement was Multis, right? Or Calico.
Oh, no, so yeah, so Multis is the pre-setup. So Multis is the pre-setup. So before you run a operator, I need you to make sure that your cluster has Multis and the CNIs loaded. So yeah, so you do need to run an operator. So to be honest, it doesn't need to if I write it differently. But then I wrote because I know Tao and John particularly would want everything to go to the management cluster and nothing runs on the edge cluster. The fact is, we worked with vendors, and then, to be honest, most of them don't have operators. For those who do have it, they run on the workload clusters, and then most of them manage workloads directly by themselves. So we just kind of simulate that environment. So maybe one narrative would be start migrating from what I have right now for Pre5GC into a case where things could be done on management cluster. But then for now, what the Pre5GC operator does is it takes the custom resource that we defined, and then creates the deployment specifications, and then it invokes the deployment API directly on the edge clusters, and it creates the as well as actually creating the config map, which is the initial configurations that requires for Pre5GC UPF to run, and then apply that onto the local cluster, and hence you see the Pre5GC UPF running at the end.
Okay.
So
right now
we still do that.
Networking,
I would think for day 2 and stuff. So yeah, so for now, yes, you do have to run an operator for what I have right now, which is probably most likely what we're going to use for November. We need to run an operator on the edge, and at least one operator on the management. I would imagine more when we integrate Tau stuff, and maybe if we do that, there'll be a couple more operators in the management cluster, but we should only have one on the edge. And we do just manually set it up, so we don't automate that part yet for November. It's something we're thinking about using package dependencies. So package dependencies would enforce that if you want to load before you can send the CL for UPF deployment, the dependencies would be the operator has to run. So we launch the operator automatically. So I don't think this is working yet for Porch, and it definitely won't be there by November. In any case, so as you can see, I already have this last night, so I'm not going to reload it. So the 2 requirements I have on the management cluster before you can run anything at all is the repo configurations. Something you can fetch from package revisions, but then package revisions you have to do a list and run forced search. So I figure the code will be a little cleaner if I don't have to run through the list all the time. So you have to tell explicitly, this is cluster scope, and you have to explicitly tell the operator that your packages are these guides for the thing that we're going to clone from. So the workflow is when you are loading the high level intent, one of them points to 35GC. So the operators would then say, hey, for this deployment, I have to go fetch a 35GC package and have to go fetch this type UPF, so I have to fetch a UPF common package. And then those packages are pretty dummy right now. This one is particularly empty, but this one actually has something, and we can talk about that a little later. And then
Steven,
quick, yeah.
Steven, quick question, if I may. If we do the IPAM or the Multis, what Paul is saying, don't we need to have a CRD in that package? That basically
that's right.
You would,
yes.
Yeah, you need to do that, right? So,
yes.
So in order for the
so you as an IPAM controller has a CLD that you exposed, and then I'm going to change the UPF CLDs, and that's actually a good segue to start looking at some CLDs.
Right.
You need to add that as a claim, or you basically this is your requirement, and then we watch the package revision resource list and basically
so if we agree on that CLD as the conditions, then we can agree on that CLDs, and then we'll basically just use the same CLDs, and then it'll route over to your operators. Otherwise, you expose some CLDs, which becomes my conditions, and then the one that actually takes the controller. So this is API. So the first one you have is the one that I told you guys last time. The thing that I really hated was the fact that you need to actually give me the actual IP address. So the endpoint is endpoint. It doesn't really have to be anything. But right now we expect that to be some sort of CIDR, which sucks. It doesn't really save anyone time by doing a different way of putting an IP address CIDR. So it'd be much nicer if it's basically more like a name resource. Even better than that would be a controller that knows this is N4, and then I know, and for this clusters, I would fetch it from this particular block. That would be even nicer. Then I don't even have to need any of those inputs. Then someone would just do that input.
The ID that I had or in the document is like there's a reconfig that does that for you. But okay, we probably need. It's a detail.
So if we have this, then all I have to do is set the conditions in a package, and then your controller get triggered, and it fills out those things. So the only thing that is required is the version of the CL that we send to the operators that runs on Edge cluster would have everything resolved. So we're not challenging that operators to do anything overly intelligence, because they're supposed to be doing intelligent stuff against the vendor-specific logics. So 35GC specific logic would go into the 35GC operators. So we want to give them a CL that is fully resolved. If it's any BGP configs, if it's any IP address that needs to be resolved and things like that, we'll just the final structure that gets downloaded onto the Edge clusters would have all those informations. The management cluster, we can do something very, very intelligent, fully automated. It's just that at the end, there's no magic. It needs to be fully resolved before someone can actually create deployment. In case, so this is required by telling us where we clone from, the name of the catalog repo that will come in. This we expect you to already done the legwork of registering your repos, which is part of the John's POC README. So if you go to that, it will tell you to register catalog repo and register a deployment repo. So I followed that narrative and basically just add a little more junk onto the catalog repo, and then also add something on deployment repo so we can clone that package too. So that's one. The second one that is required to be pre-set up is the class. This is also cluster scoped. And it's a UPF class is more like a category of UPFs, where when you instantiate a UPF, you'll be pointing to that UPF class and say that my UPF is implementing that UPF class. It's almost like object oriented, but in a way, it's basically so the reason why, so class claim is I wouldn't say recent because it's, storage, persistent volume has been using it for a while. But it's been much more popular recently because I think Kubernetes folks are realizing a lot of the resources encompasses different groups of people's concern. So UPF class is meant for network designers, network architects to say, oh, I want a UPF of this capacity, downlink and uplink. I know they're not together. And is that so this is a cool one. This is actually from Ravi actually make a comment on John's, one of John's older documents, component documents. And then from there, I kind of realized you would have to start telling people, is that an IUPF, is that a regular UPF, versus is that a PAS UPF, a UPF that links up, that hooks up with IUPF. So the IUPF has N3, but no N6. The regular UPF has N3 and N6, but no N9. And then a UPF that hooks up with the IUPF has N6 and N9, but no N3. So this is kind of a way for you to express which kind of UPF that you want to actually deploy. So that is also something you have to reference. So we expect network architects would be defining this different set of classes of UPFs, and then load that onto the management cluster, because we'll reference directly to those. And then, so those two things are already loaded. And then you have to do the same thing to rerun this repo, this thing. So now this is actually ready to run. Well then, get our packages. Our package get. So these are three sort of dummy repos, not repos, packages where I'll clone from on a code. You can specify which one you want to do over here. I'll be looking at those keys. So inside I'll be because it's 3.5GC, the deployed, the high level intents. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, have fun.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's actually a day off for us.
Oh, okay.
I learned something.
Yeah. This is recorded anyway, so yeah. You can watch it.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can ask me on Slack too if you bump into anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks.
Have a good Friday. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And so where am I? Okay. And I have a window that I'm supposed to show. So this is the window. This is the two repos that I have that I register with Cap Porch. So this is the catalog, which right now has the dummies. So this dummies, I haven't wrote the code to make it more intelligent, so I probably will do that too. So this dummy is, so imagine if you're a vendor, a 3.5GC, so it's not a vendor, but 3.5 as a project, for UPF project. You're the only one who knows what CNI you want for N3 and N6 and N9 or N4. So you would have to specify those on the package, on your package that you exposed as a vendor. And the gateways and things will fill out. And so at the very least, for NAD purposes, you would, as a vendor, you would have to at least specify that I need to, my N3, N4, and N6 are of this CNI type. So I expect that to be in part of the package. On the other hand, the UPF package is actually very empty because it has code to auto-generate. So in theory, what would happen is, so this is intelligent on controllers. Some of this, what John really pushed for, is intelligence on the package. So the thing I was showing earlier is the package, when it published, the data is already inside. So you have to add to the data, but then you expect it to inherit some of the data, like which CNI you're going to use. In here, this one actually doesn't even have a single useful YAML. It's just an empty package. So in this case, the controller takes the high-level intent and published a UPF package, UPF object resource. So So that, without further ado, oh, I can even go back to main. Let's run the controller. I'm confused on the I will run it on out of the POC directly. I think the binary is in the code, so let's not recompile. This is my source for checking. So you do a make run. This has 3 controllers in one operator. You can see 3 controllers. They're taking care of the NF deploy resource, the NF resource, and the UPF resource. Out. So the moment you do a packaged, so the next thing you do is to load the NF deployed. So NF deploy is not something it's not necessarily something I want to advocate to the community, but we just want to have an entrance point as a high-level intent. So it's a very simple intent. You're telling them that this is my deployment name, a list of instances. So this is an array. So you can have, so by the time we go to November workshop, it will be 2 that you're doing at least. So you have one which is the SMF, the UPF, and the other one which is SMF. You put that onto two elements of an array, and then you explicitly tell us which cluster you're going, what the type is, UPF, the class that you point back to, the class that we defined in the cluster, and then which vendor and what version, and then which namespace it's targeted to. So in this case, you can get it to the user's namespace when we get to the workshop. And there's nothing intelligent in there right now. I'm not even doing a package. So this one is just directly applying. And from that point, what you'll see is on the catalog repo, we now have 2 new packages. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. Gig interface is really something. One of this is so first, this is your UPF package. So it contains, based on your high-level intent, in your case, for this UPF class, there's 1 N3, 1 N4, 1 N6, so it's a regular repo. So you're creating these based on the class. We don't know what those are yet. So this is a user. So user would have to come in, pull this package, and then change it and push it back, basically. Well, actually, we don't have a pushback yet. So this is the package condition stuff that John talked about. So we'll have to figure out how to do that when John comes back. So right now, what you will see is I just directly applied the couts. But then supposedly what should happen is so as a user, I look at all the unfulfilled parameters, I fill it up, I push it back in, and then I change the revision. So I'm saying this is version 2 now, or it goes from version 0 to version 1. And then we sense a package revision changed. And then, well, so actually even more than that. So I created this package, and then from this package, I would say that I depend on a bunch of IP addresses. So the package conditions should be triggered so that when Vim has its IPAM operators, it would go in and then have a reference to that package, and then automatically update a package for the IP address blocks or exact IP address, depends on which field you're going to fill out. And then once that is done, the controller can also update the package revisions, or maybe push it as a draft so that someone can approve it. So once this is approved, then it would be triggered. It would trigger my controllers to generate the UPF deployment that goes into the edge cluster. So at this point, this get generated. The other one is much more dumb. As I said, I just take exactly what's from the package. The package already come in with all the things set up just for demo purpose. For the real thing, it will be filled out also by different 3.5GC either controllers or human would have to go in and add it. So as you can see, the packages are already in place. So you have both this UPF package and the 3.5GC package. The 3.5GC package right now only contains one thing, which is the NF resource type. So this is my resource requirements. So for my resource requirements, I'm asking that you have to fill it out. So as a user, you would have to tell us for N3, N4, and N6 so the secondary interface, what node interfaces are they going to map to? Because obviously vendors don't know it. So that one should come from users. Users have to go into to pull this package, update that field, and then push it back in. So for now, it's all set up. So it's cheating, but then quicker for demo purpose. Even quicker is for me to just, instead of pulling packages, I would just directly apply. So this is the same resource that you saw earlier. And then it maps to my ENS4, which is really the only interface on the VM anyway. And also the second one is the UPF. So the UPF, as you can see from the package, all the IP addresses weren't filled out yet. So now this is the fill out version. So a human would go in and fill out all the versions, all of this, or Vim's operator would come in and then fill out all of those, and then someone would approve it. So the approval process would then trigger the operators to further operate or process on this all these resources. So now, doesn't matter what the order is. For now, this is not actuated yet. So you can do NF resource first, or you can do whatever first. On the real thing, because it's different operators operating on them, it's asynchronous. So we have no way to not this one. Sorry. And so these generate something onto the deployment repo. Should be more than one. Yep. So now you have two things that are generated onto the deployment repo. So deployment repo are the things that goes to the target cluster, the workload cluster. So now if you do the package get, you have a lot more packages. The things that you care about are things that are on the test deployment. So if you look at the test deployment part, other than that one dummy, you have two other ones that we just generated as part of the operator. They're based on the COUts that you give them in terms of, this is my resource requirements, and this is the UPF's configurations. So it generates both the actual NAD and you can see it here. So this is the actual NAD. There are three of them for N3, N4, and N6. They look like NAD. And then another one, which is the UPF, which is the UPF deployment custom resource that we are creating as a community. So it's not fixed yet at this point, but this is what I proposed. So this has all the IP address resolved, capacity is given, image path is given. So this has enough information for the 3.5GC operators to launch a UPF. And you would now have to do the process of approving. So this is something that hopefully by November we'll be able to do. So it is required that you have to first load the NADs before you load you create a UPF. You would think that Kubernetes will reconcile. It won't. It would just fail. It would error out the UPF, the deployment. So this is a fix. So go ahead.
So yeah, yes, it will fail. I mean, this is a problem with Multus. Multus is not dynamic, but I can show how you can use it with another operator, a reloader operator, to really solve the problem. I mean, every problem in Kubernetes has a solution. They're just a little weird.
Yeah.
But also, this is what I tried to show with Planter, right? That you could exactly do these requirements first, and it makes sure, we don't like to think about it, but Kubernetes does have hard requirements like these sometimes.
Yes.
So hard dependencies, right? So
a lot more so for network functions, even.
it can be solved, but yeah, just wanted to add, these NADs, that's exactly what I hope to generate with KNAP, just to show that you don't have to create these NADs, but to do something more.
So I would be very happy if your KNAP can replace this.
It can, even if we just hack something together just for this, because KNAP uses plugins, and the plugin can just be some Python code or whatever that does what it needs to do for the demo. But just to show that this could be offloaded to another component would be useful.
It can, and then we should do it. Wow, getting it so long. Okay, so it's now committed. So the NADs should be there at some point. Hopefully now. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Network attachment definitions. UKF one, I think. Yep. Is it there? Right now, 20 seconds ago. So once that is there, the next thing to do is to run your operator. Because the next thing to do would be propose and approve the UPF package. Propose is an internal thing. I don't know why it took so long. This is going from GKE to GitHub, but it's still kind of much longer than I would like. So before anything, let me show you this before and after. And now it should be after. Yep. Well, creating container. Running the free5GC. So that's the demo. Any questions?
Cool. Not exactly a question, but all those IP addresses in the basic config worry me.
Yeah, it does.
I'm sure
it does. It's not the best thing for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a better way to think about this, but for now we really don't have time to redo any of this. I'll think about it.
Definitely. So there's a good design behind it somewhere. We do want the conditions set, and then if Wim writes an operator that would be coming in and automate the entire process. It is quite a bit of work, I would say.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Right. There's so I'll give you some thoughts immediately, but yeah, I'm not expecting us to. Oh, sorry. I'm not expecting us to do anything for this workshop. I think this is fine, but the cloud native approach is, I think, to pull. That is for the components themselves to do their own discovery of what they need, and get it somewhere. And it doesn't have to be the component itself. It could be an extra operator that does that discovery for you. But anyway, it's not important right now. I really don't want to derail this. I think this is absolutely fine for what we're trying to show.
No, so the hopefully a really stretch goal would be having some sort of IPAM controllers or IP address controllers. That would be hitting on the conditions of package and then automatically fill it out. So we don't need any humans to actually input, other than maybe input like this is a block that I will use for this purpose.
Yeah. And I actually do have
in the very beginning.
another operator I wrote that does something like that, like injecting
Okay.
config.
Okay.
But anyway, we can talk about this, I think, after the workshop and see how we improve the architecture. But this is fine.
Yeah. Yep.
By the way, the
Yeah, the
item that I
one
have
thing,
is going to do that. By the way, the item is going to fill out. I said I'll share the document SAP, but the item will fill out the IPs based on a CRD, and then we assume a function to take that input and resolve the unresolved references with it. That's I think the idea.
That's what we want. Yeah, that's what we want. We want
And
something
so,
that would take a pool from user. So user has to input something, but then take that pool. But it's very simple input, and then it does the allocations based on what kind of IP address do you want? Not v6 versus v4, but what the particular function and purpose of the IP address you're requesting, and then you will fill out the package directly. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, indeed, that's exactly what I was what I'm proposing, basically.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we need. Okay, cool. So the code is there. This is how you run them. So let me know if you're trying to run it and bump into any problems. As Wim said, you should be able to run both the management clusters and the workload clusters on Kind. So you should be able to just do it on laptop. And some gig repos somewhere. So that should be fine. Hopefully have fun doing it. Let me know what you guys think. And then go ahead. Sorry, Ann, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Please post the recording when you get it.
Yeah. So I think John gets them, not me. It used to be so the TPM set this up, and I think he transferred ownership to John. So the meeting owner gets the recording notifications, but then supposedly, at least for ours internally in Google, the recording get linked directly to the meeting invite. But then I don't know if this does it, so I'm not. I can't promise. But then for sure John will get it.
Okay.
Yeah, Stephen, like we discussed for the narrative, right? And probably we need to come up with the step by step. Once everything is finalized, step by step. Documentation.
I'll comment directly on that on the doc.
Yeah, and then probably we need to. The way I'm thinking is the way we need to run the workshop is we could run the workshop one way is like give them a handout like a PDF document which has all the steps and they follow that.
Yeah.
Did you agree? I think that's the most efficient way. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and do this, and observe this, read this, things like that. Yeah,
that's right. All of us, again, those of us that are going to be there, I guess, we'll just run around and see anyone have questions and jump there to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thank you for volunteering. So we're looking for Vim. So the rest of the folks, is there something you want to pick up? I know Tao has something they want to integrate, and I would love to integrate with those. So we'll talk about those. But then
I'll try this week to basically integrate it and see how far I get.
Okay. So I know Ann wants to look at the SMF piece.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm so far I check out your code, your repo. I got 2 Kind cluster running, 1 management, 1 workload.
Okay.
And I'm gonna create a Git
I can draft a CLDs and give it to you, and we can talk it out. And see
that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
But I want to get familiar with your code so that I can mimic the pattern. Right.
Yeah, it's not that great. It's something that I paced together with the last actually 3.5-4 weeks now. And then
no worries. Is 0.x, right?
So we're hoping to have something more official dropped on, at least for the controller, the front controller. So the engine. So as I think John said that on one of the 2 meetings, on the previous version we did it without Porch. We use a service on Google called Cloud Build, which is used for serverless stuff, I think. mostly. So it's a pipeline of containers that they'll execute one by one as sequence. So we use that to run basically a fixed pipeline. But then with Porsche, we can run a dynamic pipeline based on the package conditions, based on what hasn't been filled out and things like that. So it's much more powerful, and we'll want to jump into that. And then there are folks in Google that are working on migrating code to that, and maybe we'll have more things to contribute a little later. But then for now, what we have is good enough, I guess, for November, and it's pretty much roughly what is going to be the thing, at least for one particular controller. So going to be what we're going to contribute as like more official code. So
yep.
So stay tuned. But for now, let's get the party rolling for November. What about Bala? Do you want to pick up something? I actually don't even know what else is there, but it's something you're interested to try.
So at this point of time,
the affinity stuff, if you can figure that out, and then if you really want to integrate eNode, once they're on the same node, then perhaps we can use eNodes to make SMF and UPF talk. But we have to go investigate. It may not be that easy though, I would say. But then the affinity stuff, definitely something would be great to look at.
Yeah, I can take a look at that, but Stephen, but next week is slightly tight for me. I wrote the documentation, and also I also wrote the release thing, the release process stuff that we need to discuss next week. I'll see. I'll get back to what exactly.
Well, in the meantime, we'll at least get the narrative going and finalized.
Yes,
for the week.
That's right. Yeah, and then also the release process he wanted me to document at that.
That too. Yes.
Next week is slightly tricky, but I really I want to get my hands dirty, but in each particular way I'll get.
That's fine. It's okay. I mean, it's very tight time in general.
Yeah.
It's only 2 weeks away, so 2 weeks away. Yeah, so it's okay.
I have a question about NAP versus Eno. I saw the Eno demo, and at least from my perspective, a newbie, it seemed complicated. And I was wondering if we can do something with NAP. If once Tal has recovered, he can demo it and see if we can integrate that.
Yeah, I'm open for either.
So I'll say on NAP is really, a little bit of the history. I was just trying to show the problem, right? It is very much POC, but it is very straightforward, right? The idea is that you just you delegate things to things called providers. You can, could be a pod, right? So you can install something called a provider, and NAP would delegate to that. So it basically is an operator that lets you insert your own code that would create NADs. So it can't be much simpler than that. NAP does the wiring for it. So it has its own annotations, and then it creates Altus annotations for you. So so instead of a network attachment, you have a network annotation. But it then, so it's one of those operators that I call kind of partial operators, because they don't work only on CRDs, they work on annotations, right? So they work on aspects, or an aspect operator. So it works on an aspect of resources rather than the whole resource. But yeah, I'll demo it. You'll see it's relatively straightforward. But sorry, my voice is
No worries. Okay. Don't worry.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Cool. Looking forward for that. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. The no affinity thing is definitely interesting to think about. And then if they're local in the same node, we could use just Kubernetes networking for N4. Yeah, so that may work.
So we agree on a management cluster, one or more workload cluster.
Yeah. Yeah. One management cluster should be good enough.
Yeah. And then one or more workload.
I thought it was one workload cluster and one management cluster for the whole workshop.
So we'll see how the workload cluster part. I mean, we can partition that into several clusters. It's not that bad either way. And then not 90, but not 90, but then 3 or 4, just so that we don't load the 3.5GC operators so badly. But then it's not really that big of a scalability problem neither. So I'm pretty confident it can handle. It's just that We might as well make debugging a little easier, just in case anything messed up.
Do we have a feel for how many connection or?
No, it's not actually. It doesn't operate on connections. It operates on request. So every time we push a custom resource, it does stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stuff that it's doing, it's not actually that big, but it go back and forth with API server several times.
Yes.
So there's some network operations. Yeah.
So I think we need to do that test of scale ASAP.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't work, we'll have to find a plan B for this. But and that would be very hard at the last moment. So if you have any concerns, I think this is the very first thing we should try.
Okay. Yeah.
And we can help. I don't know how much we can help. It might be something you need to do internally in Google for now. But yeah.
Another question I have, and this is me being a worry wart. Should we have a backup plan to say that plan A is doing what we're trying to do? Plan B is if something doesn't work, this is what we're going to demo and workshop?
We can demo, because John and I will have a demo.
Okay, we can demo plan B for the workshop.
Yeah, if it becomes a demo, which is not what we want, but then we have fallback options. But I would have to say this is relatively stable. I've been running that several times and been tearing down and bringing it back up. So I don't. But I know how to operate, so I can say for sure. People would be able to get it up. So I think feedback from you folks would be great. If this is overly difficult in terms of the steps to actually do this, it would be great. Oh yeah, have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Help me to drop. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I mean, you're asking, so I'll answer. I'll give you my feedback. I do think it's too complicated, but I think but yeah, I mean, there could be things with KPT that could be easier or better. But you know, my feedback generally was that I'm still not super excited that KPT is a requirement for Nefio. I understand Google's way of thinking this is part of the picture, but you know, again, from Red Hat's perspective, it's not probably going to work that way. Red Hat would rather use our own GitOps investments, right?
Yeah.
So, which are also complicated, right? But I think my point is that I don't know. To me, the GitOps is not the really crucial factor that Nefio brings to the table. GitOps solutions for Kubernetes already exist. Yeah, we need Nefio to integrate with them in some way, but anyway, this is
so this is between you and John. I don't have as strong of an opinion on this as John, because John came from that team. I'm on a different team. Yeah, I mean the official stand, of course, is we stand behind Cap and Porch, but then you and John can work that out. It'll be great.
It's not me and John.
Yeah, I mean whole community, of course, but then that's we'll have to see how Argo works, and then see what the benefits and trade-offs between the two.
Well, this demo would be and workshop would be really important for that, because it will give a large part of the community, not just us, people involved in it, and we'll get feedback from them. They'll tell us if they think this is complicated or necessary. I mean, complication is good if it's a necessary complication, right? A complicated solution should match the complexity of the problem.
Right.
So complex problem requires complex solution, but it could be that, in my opinion, this is not part of the problem in my view. But we'll see what other people really feel.
I agree. Yeah.
Pardon my newbie-ness, but in my opinion, the importance is to show a deployment of a UPF and an SMF talking, and then the KPT.
Well, so for me, the important thing is we have a mechanism to resolve infrastructure dependencies. We have mechanisms to resolve all the other software dependencies that comes up from the network functions. and networking, which is part of infrastructure. And then when we get to there, the dependencies between network functions, because connectivity matters a lot for network functions. So those are problem I want to solve, not the other stuff. So we have mechanisms and hooks to do so, and then operators allows us to continuously track and monitor that these connectivity things are still in place. So these are things that I care much more about. So if Tao and others obviously remember in the beginning, before SIG 2 and 3 merged, I was supposed to be looking at SIG 2 for CLD and operators. I care a little less, to be honest, about the platform side. So those are problems I want the community to solve, and those are real pain points for telcos users. So those are the things I care about.
Yeah, because I went through the user story document yesterday, and I was trying to pull out the core user storage requirements. And I get that the software dependency was and the infrastructure dependency was mentioned by several companies, and so that's one of the things. But thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. So when I set off to build this before we open source a product, there was that's the problem we want to solve, not the it doesn't matter what mechanism is there. There has to be a mechanism. But then we have to make sure the problem is solved and it's easy to consume by telco users. So in the beginning, I even thought GigOps would be tough. When I start demo that to telcos, I was a little worried, and then it was actually very well received. So it was great.
Cool. Cool. Maybe if I may make a suggestion, document this in a slide or something for the demo, because the scope may be confusing. At least for me, it was until just now. You clarify it.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, we will present something obviously before. Before we jump to the workshop. So yeah, part of that presentation.
Maybe just because I was coming into this late, so I was focusing on getting UPF and SMF up and running, talking, not the infrastructure and software dependency. So that's a good clarification. Thanks.
Yeah, if it's just bringing up something, home shots can do that too. But then we want to do a lot more. We wanted to continuously resolving issues and intents, and then making sure all those dependencies are resolved instead of statically resolved by enforce an order in Helm. When you Helm deploy, Helm install and stuff one by one by itself, we'll have to do that by software. We want to do that by software. Yeah.
Cool.
So okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sticking around. That's like 30 minutes over. Have a good weekend, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Well, thank you.
Yeah, Cal, just ping us what you're.
I'll see you guys on the next SIG 2 meeting, or actually SIG 3 meeting, because I'm chairing that. But then obviously I haven't done much for SIG 3 because of this. But then I'll see you guys. Well, on Monday.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. Lots of work here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye. Let me stop recording.